Alright, I'll be looking at Amazon ECS, EKS, and AWS Fargate in this video. This is just an introduction to these resources. We will not be having any hands-on in this lecture. We'll be looking at that in a subsequent video sometime later. Amazon Elastic Container Service is a fully managed container orchestration service that simplifies the deployment, management, and scaling of containerized application on AWS. So if you are familiar with containerized concept or apps like Docker desktop or Docker generally, you'd understand what container service means. So it allows you to run Docker containers without having to manage the underlying infrastructure. So usually when you have to use Docker in certain applications or infrastructure, you have to manually install Docker, go through the entire Docker documentation and all that. So AWS offers very simple, scalable, and containerized resources for you to easily use their solutions for your workload. So easy to integrate with other AWS service for a secure and easy to use solution for container workloads. So the key features are deeply integrated with AWS ecosystem, meaning that your Dockerized application would easily work with any of the AWS resources, and you can deploy this in two approach. So there are two types. You can set up an EC2 cluster, so it means that this particular Docker container, you have EC2 resources that you want to deploy. You can set up a fleet of instances or one instance, and you worry about the cost for those instances as the system is being used. Or you use a Fargate. A Fargate is a serverless approach, just like Lambda, where you don't have to set up any infrastructure. AWS will handle that. All you have to do is to focus on your container. So there are use cases: simple containerized application, microservices built with Docker. When you want to avoid Kubernetes complexity, this is the kind of orchestration environment you want to run to. Now, on the flip side, Amazon also has an elastic Kubernetes service. Amazon has everything. So in case you are used to Kubernetes and you don't want to worry about deploying, setting up your nodes, all the things that come with setting up Kubernetes in the cloud, you can just simply run EKS, and it automatically manages and scales your Kubernetes control plane nodes, make it easier to deploy and manage containerized applications. So EKS enables you to leverage the benefit of Kubernetes, including its scalability and reliability, without the operational overhead of managing your own Kubernetes infrastructure. So key features: uses upstream Kubernetes, it's 100% compatible, runs EKS clusters on EC2 or with Fargate. Just the same way you want to run your ECS, you can run your EKS. Either you set up your infrastructure, set up your EC2 instances, or specify those instances. Otherwise, you use Fargate, where you are only charged based on compute resource that you're using at every point in time. So it integrates with IAM, CloudWatch, application load balancer, and more. So it's best for team that already uses Kubernetes. So if you are running Kubernetes infrastructure and you decide to migrate to AWS, it means that you'll be deploying Amazon EKS service. So use cases: applications already containerized with Kubernetes configs like Helm and the YAML files. Everything goes well when you want to move to EKS. So hybrid cloud or multi-cloud Kubernetes deployment. So in some cases, you might have Kubernetes running on an on-premise infrastructure, and you want to maybe replicate same, or some services are running on AWS, some are running outside AWS. So these are where you can work with Kubernetes. So ECS versus EKS. So in terms of the difference between both of them on AWS, the table just describes it. So orchestration, AWS is native. ECS is AWS native. EKS is Kubernetes. It's easier to use AWS ECS. But if you're already a Kubernetes guy, EKS shouldn't be a problem. Flexibility is less portable, highly portable. It's multi-cloud. That's for the EKS. So the ecosystem, this is deep into AWS integration. So everything ECS works well. Every AWS resources works with ECS, whereas the Kubernetes version, you don't have to work with Kubernetes community tools. So Fargate, just like I mentioned earlier, is a serverless compute engine that allows you to run containers on AWS environment. It simplifies container management by handling tasks like server provisioning, scaling, and cluster optimization, enabling developers to focus on application development. So in this case, whatever you'll be doing, you're not worried about what's the disk space, what's the instance type. Everything will be handled with AWS. So you create your task, ECS or deployment spec. You choose Fargate as a launch type. So when you are creating whether it's ECS or EKS, you have to specify, your launch type by choosing Fargate. So it deploys the cluster, monitors via CloudWatch and Container Insights. And the benefit is that you don't need to worry about managing EC2 instances. You pay per second of compute. It simplifies scaling and patching. And and the typical use cases are to run containers without managing infrastructure. Wait for microservices, batch jobs, event-driven architecture. Pretty much that's it. You need to know about AWS, EC2, ECS, and EKS. And I believe I've been able to give you an idea of what this is for future learning. If you continue to follow my YouTube channel, in a subsequent videos, we'll be diving deep into these resources. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.